Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me on this holiday week. We've rolled from Christmas into the day before New Year's Eve. As today is Tuesday, December 30th. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. Man, do I have something cooked up for us today that will carry your conversation over the new year. You're looking for something to talk about at your New Year's Eve party. You're looking at something to talk about on New Year's as you sit back and enjoy football on New Year's Day. I've got a topic for us today that will carry you through the holidays, make you seem really, really smart and on the cutting edge. I'm going to do something, and I feel confident I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to connect what's going on in the National Football League to what's going on in Minnesota with Somalians and child daycare and all this corruption we're seeing. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But yes, I'm going to connect it all on today's show. It'll just be me and you. Hopefully, I've got 45 minutes, maybe an hour of content. I don't want to keep you too long. We started a little bit later so that I could prepare this a little bit better and we could get all the graphics and everything we needed to unpack this. But this will be an amazing show. I feel confident with that, and that's why I feel confident telling those of you listening over Apple to make sure you hit that 5-star rating. It's important. This helps us fight the algorithm. Those of you watching on YouTube and just those of you that can hear my voice, we're still in the holiday season. We're still in the Christmas season, and you need to make sure you've gotten your Lord and Savior a Christmas gift. And I'm telling you, go to preborn.com/fearless. Right now, that's preborn.com/fearless. You guys know what Preborn does. It supports expectant mothers who are considering abortion, provides them an ultrasound, helps them make a wise choice and come to the realization that life begins at conception. They do that because we donate to Preborn, and they can afford the $28 it costs per ultrasound. Two ways to give: preborn.com/fearless or dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Let's get to today's show. So there's some background I got to walk you through so that you can fully understand the connection that I'm going to make. That, I'm about to connect this NFL slogan that we've seen everywhere, inspire change, to how it really inspires chaos and corruption. But I got to give you some background and walk you through some things first. And so let me just start here. We're in a time right now where there are two competing ideas for our mind. There is the Trump movement and Make America Great Again, competing against Barack Obama and his movement, Hope and Change. That's the dichotomy we have going on in America. There are people that want to make America great again, that are longing for the past. Oh, I remember when this country was more biblically worldview sound. I remember when this country was more Christian. Let's make America like that again. Let's lean into our historical, traditional values. Let's make America great again. And then there's the competing side of Barack Obama and Hope and Change, or change we can believe in. And change versus tradition. Make America again versus, hey, we need to change things up. Things have never been right, and we must promote change. And through change, there is hope. One of these, again, and obviously you guys know me and where I lean on this split, but the whole Make America Great Again, and I know Trump as the face of it, makes it hard for some people to wrap their mind around it. But if you talk to the everyday people that believe in the MAGA movement, again, they long for a more biblically based world and culture. It's not saying they're perfect Christians. It's not saying that they're not filled with sin and flaws like everyone else. But They want a return to traditional values and a code of ethics and some morality to be a part of American society. And the people that are hoping change are far more secular. And they believe, look, no, we need to do something new, different. America's founding was corrupt. It was immoral. It had slavery. So we must redo. We must remake the Constitution. We must remake our worldviews. Those are the two competing ideas. And the NFL, the National Football League, has chosen a clear side. The NFL is pro-change. The NFL does not want to look back. It wants to look forward. It wants to make America anew. And the NFL has bought into, if you've been watching games over the weekend, over this past week, is, we've seemingly had football games every day, including last night, the Monday Night Football game. Everybody on the sideline is wearing these inspired change hoodies, T-shirts, messaging. Inspired change is everywhere. We've had a lot of discussion over the past few years about the end zone messaging, in racism. It takes all of us. That's the big shiny thing that they put on the field that is meaningless and is really a distraction. The NFL's real agenda is the inspire change agenda. And none of this is by accident. And so in 2008, Barack Obama comes out running for president, change we can believe in, then it drifts into hope and change, and that defines the two terms of Obama: hope and change. Change we can believe in. Change. We must change things here in America. And then Trump comes in 2015, in 2016, and it's Make America Great Again. The National Football League, anti-Trump, pro-Obama, pro-change, they incorporate a message of inspire change. And it is everywhere. It's everywhere because we've never seen a force like the National Football League as it relates to its dominance in popular culture, as it relates to its ability to dominate, drive perception, drive viewers. It's the gatherings place. It's the watering hole of all of America. The National Football League is America's religion right now. People used to gather up on Sundays in churches all across America. Now we spend a lot less time in churches, and we spend a lot more time in the church of football on Sundays, either at our homes or in stadiums. The National Football League is our national religion. And there have been two competing political forces and cultural forces fighting for control of American culture, and one side has captured the most powerful force in the history of American popular culture, and that's the National Football League. Why do I say that? Because what do you mean? The NFL, is it more powerful than Michael Jackson? Of course. Elvis Presley? Of course. Taylor Swift? Of course. Any of these pop culture figures. Well, hold on, man. MASH and these other TV shows used to be really, doesn't remotely compare to the National Football League. We've never seen one entity that is the number one product on, it ain't just the television networks now. Let me make sure I get this right and nail this. How many different entities the National Football League is the number one product on? NBC. Their sister network, Peacock. CBS. ABC. Fox. ESPN. Netflix. Amazon. YouTube. The National Football League is in bed with everywhere. Everywhere you turn, the National Football League is there, and their messaging is there. And this is why the league is so powerful and important, because if you want to get a message out to all of America, the perfect vehicle is the National Football League. And that's why Inspire Change is everywhere. Every time you turn on an NFL game, there's some assistant coach or some practice squad player or somebody standing on the sidelines with Inspire Change on the front of their messaging. Well, no one ever changed to what? What do we just want change? And it's about a capturing of a mindset of convincing people that change equals progress, that change is always better than what was. And so if you're trying to convince Americans, hey man, everything about your past is evil and wicked and racist and must be changed, you need to promote the idea that change is the greatest thing in the history of the world, in the history of the planet. And so they're using the NFL to spread a message of change, 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 change. Any change is better than what was. And it's how you start grooming people in the mindsets of, you know what, George Washington, Ben Franklin, John Adams, the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. We must change from what they established. Change is good. Change is hope. Change is progress. And then the NFL, being manipulated, being controlled, always siding with money, abandoning its core values, paying off. Again, you want to wonder why Roger Goodell makes $50 million a year or whatever it is they're paying him. He's being bought off. He's being bribed. It's outside influences or leftist influences. Here's $50 million, Roger. We're going to use your league to help destroy America. We're going to use your league to help convince Americans that change is the ultimate thing. And we must change. And here's the change that they're promoting. And they've done this very, very cleverly. We must change from white to black. And some of you will hear that and say, oh, here's Whitlock. He doesn't like black people. No, it's not that. I don't have a problem with people with dark skin. I have dark skin. I have a problem with the mentality that has been promoted among black people and what the culture of black has been turned into by these pop culture influencers and the people in charge of Hollywood and the people in charge of the music industry and the people in charge of the zeitgeist. They've made black antithetical to Christian. They've made black hedonism, materialism, profanity, degeneracy, perversion, illicit sex. That's what black is. It's using drugs. It's dancing on command. At the sound of music, everybody just break out into dance. They've made black something antithetical to Christianity. And everybody, and so the NFL has, in promoting this message of change, has promoted a message of blackness. We're the black league. Our players that are in the league, they're 70% black. So this league must reflect what we have defined as blackness. And so let me give you a tiny bit more history to put some meat on the bones of what I'm unpacking about this clever marketing scheme that the NFL is participating in, has been paid to participate in, and how it leads to the chaos and the corruption that we see pervasive throughout the United States. So Obama in 2008 starts out, hope and change, black president, historic black president. And then in 2012, the start of Obama's second term, he makes a pivot. He pivots to the pro-gay movement. He becomes more of a racial influencer, a racial polarizing figure, and then he jumps on intentionally. This is the president of the United States comes out and says, when the Trayvon Martin deal happened down in Florida, Barack Obama, on a case that no one knows, did George Zimmerman do it? Did George Zimmerman do something inappropriate? Barack Obama, the president of the United States, weighs in and says, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin. He renders basically a verdict on the Trayvon Martin deal. He puts his stamp of approval on the Trayvon Martin narrative. George Zimmerman just hopped out and killed Trayvon Martin he's a white racist person and this just shows how unsafe black men are and young men are from these white police officers that are just out of control. And yes, I use the word white police officer intentionally because everybody's initial mentality was George Zimmerman, who was a neighborhood patrolman, watchman, a volunteer. He was not the police. He had no police authority. This wasn't a police case, but we pretended like it was, and we pretended that George Zimmerman was white when he was really Hispanic. There was nothing racial about the conflict between George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. And as it relates to George Zimmerman, there was nothing illegal about what George Zimmerman did. As we've come to find out in years past, after years have gone on, the Trayvon Martin deal was a hoax. I've unpacked for you all. Joel Gilbert, who did the documentary, unpacked for you all how the star witness, this Rachel Gentile, was a plant and a fake, was never Trayvon Martin's girlfriend. She was there to help sell this narrative that she was on the phone with him when George Zimmerman attacked. It was all a lie and a fugazi. George Zimmerman nearly beat the crap out of Trayvon Martin nearly beat the crap out of George Zimmerman, pounding his head into the pavement, and George Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin to save his own life. If you go watch any documentary, there's all kinds of evidence that prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the entire thing was a hoax. Trayvon Martin was not a victim. But our president, Barack Obama, jumped on this, pounced on this, promoted the false narrative, and kicked off the Black Lives Matter movement basically in 2012. That set the groundwork for 2014 when Michael Brown, in another hoax in Ferguson, Missouri, where Darren Wilson, the cop, shot Michael Brown for no reason. Michael Brown put his hands up and was surrendering when Darren Wilson shot him. Proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to be a false claim. Michael Brown, teenage young man, tried to take a gun off a police officer and was attacking a police officer, and the police officer, Darren Wilson, shot him in self-defense in a justifiable shooting. That's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. But this Michael Brown deal in 2014 helped encourage and inspire more of the Black Lives Matter movement, more of the racial idolatry, more of the seeing everything that transpires in America through a racial lens. NFL players in 2014, St. Louis Rams players hop on, come out taking the field, hands up, but they buy the Michael Brown hoax and start selling it in the National Football League. Here it is, the biggest platform in all of pop culture, and football players, guys that run around colliding into each other, guys that spend a lot of time in strip clubs, guys that aren't the greatest college students in the history of the world, guys that are young, overpaid, easily controlled through their emotions, too many of them raised by their mothers, too many of them concerned with being popular over social media. They hop on board with selling the Michael Brown hoax. And we take another step towards the National Football League buying into hook, line, and sinker the whole BLM movement. And then we get to 2016. And on July 5th and July 6th of 2016, Alton Sterling and Philando Castile get killed back to back. July 5th, July 6th. And come August, there's a quarterback that plays for the San Francisco 49ers, Colin Kaepernick, that says, hey, I'm losing my job. My career is bombing out. I had been successful. I was headed on track to be a Pro Bowl type quarterback and a consistent winner in the National Football League and a guy worth millions and millions of dollars. He's losing his job now in San Francisco to Blaine Gabbert. He's half white and either half black or half Middle Eastern. He claims to be half black. He's been raised by white people in Turlock, California, around in a predominantly white environment. He's got identity issues. And he wants to have his ultimate, hey, look at me, I'm a black man moment. He's upset that Blaine Gabbert's beating him out in San Francisco and the NFL is turning on him and his star is starting to dim. He starts taking a knee in August, late August, because in early July, Philando Castile and Alton Sterling were killed by police in incidents. The Philando Castile one, I remember police were probably wrong in that. I think they've been convicted. I don't remember all the details on the Alton Sterling deal. I looked it up. But two guys wanting to have a discussion with the police rather than just hand over the information. I'm just sorry. I can't do it. I can't. Police make mistakes, and there's ways to help avoid them making mistakes, and that's by cooperating with everything they do. When you cooperate with everything they do, I'm not sure if there's any evidence that anyone's ever been killed when cooperating with the police. But I'm not going to relitigate the cases. The point I'm making is Colin Kaepernick milking this deal so he can have his authentic black moment, milking this so that he can be popular over social media, milking this so that he could finally, being abandoned by his allegedly black father, also abandoned by his white mother, but having been raised by white people, he now gets to have his ultimate black moment. It's almost better than being a black rapper and cursing and doing all kinds of profane music. He gets to take a knee during NFL games and troll white people and troll the national anthem. And the next thing you know, a real movement has taken root. Black Lives Matter now has its afroed symbol, African American Colin Kaepernick. And the war, this happens in 2016. This is when Trump has taken office in America and is criticizing the National Football League for allowing people to, for allowing people. Trump hasn't taken office. He's running in 2016. He takes office in 2017. But this is at the height of Trump and Make America Great Again and just Trumpism starting to take off at the same time that Colin Kaepernick and taking a knee during the national anthem is taking off. And this goes on all throughout the 2016 NFL season as the NFL allows Colin Kaepernick to make a mockery of the national anthem. They allowed it. I'm sure they were incentivized to allow it because this entire thing has been a buildup and a psyop to promote the whole change agenda. And so coming out of 2016, where Colin Kaepernick is getting all this attention for kneeling, two NFL players, Malcolm Jenkins and Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden, at the end of his NFL career, I think 2016 was his last season in the NFL. Malcolm Jenkins had 4 or 5 more years. But Malcolm Jenkins, a defensive back, and Anquan Bolden, a wide receiver, they co-found the Players Coalition. Off the back of Colin Kaepernick, they co-found the Players Coalition. And they're going to an NFL wide receiver and an NFL DB. I'm going to say something factual, slightly inappropriate here, but it's factual. I bet if we examined the Wonderlic scores of NFL players and we went through position groups with the lowest Wonderlic scores, I guarantee you wide receiver and DB are at the top of the list. We're not dealing with rocket scientists here. We're dealing with a NFL wide receiver. These are grown men that have played games their entire life. They found the Players Coalition, and they're going to lead the NFL in addressing criminal justice reform. The Players Coalition talks or coerces or negotiates the NFL owners into giving them like $100 million. 2 NFL players, and then they're joined by 8 or 9 other NFL players, Chris Long and a bunch of these other football players, Ben Watson, these guys with no insight. And they're going to reform the criminal justice system. They're going to lead football players. Career football players have decided, you know what? We know how the criminal justice system should operate. Football players. The guys that, this wasn't back then, but that jumped from school to school in the transfer portal, the guys who were totally driven by money and finances, the football players. I used to be one. I'm not speculating here. There's a major transition you have to go through mentally to go from football player to intellectual leader to criminal justice reformer. You can't do it. You can't come straight off the football field like Anquan Bolden did and like Malcolm Jenkins did, and now I'm a criminal justice reform leader, and the NFL is turning over hundreds of millions of dollars for me to direct on how we reshape the conversation about America's criminal justice system. Are you kidding me? But when your mentality is that any change is positive and everything that was established before I had influence over it needs to be changed, that's how this becomes a good thing. And then when you got racial goggles on and you see everything through a racial lens. Well, Anquan Bolden, Malcolm Jenkins, and they're black. This is a black league. This is positive. Black people are now in control of reforming the criminal justice system. This is great. We're not talking about qualifications. We don't know what majors in college. We don't know what these guys do in their off season. We don't know anything about them other than they played football. And the NFL turns over hundreds of millions of dollars to them to lead a criminal justice reform movement. Are you starting to see the connection? And I'm not quite there yet, but I want you to see the connection in terms of what's going on in Minnesota and hundreds of millions of dollars being funneled through Somali child care places, establishments, and transferring large sums of money over to NGOs and 501c3s and organizations that are there to promote change? Who are we giving this money to? And under the justification, well, as long as someone of color gets the money, it's a good thing. This is insanity, particularly when you look at how have they defined color, people of color, black culture. When black culture is hip hop and Cardi B sits at the top of hip hop, you don't put hip hop at the top of, hey, we're going to redefine the culture through hip hop. Yeah, Jay-Z and Cardi B and Kanye West and Diddy. Let's put them at the top of American culture. Let's run American culture through the sieve of hip hop because it's people of color, and people of color can do no wrong, even though their culture, as Hollywood and the music industry have defined it, is as demonic and degenerate and gay as any culture in the history of America. But I'm getting slightly ahead of myself because through the Players Coalition established in 2017 off the back of Colin Kaepernick, Anquan Bolden, Malcolm Jenkins, and the Players Coalition turn around in 2019, 2 years later, and they establish the Inspire Change movement that has overtaken the National Football League. Inspire Change. I want to read to you all a couple of things here, like what Inspire Change is about. On the front it says Inspire Change. On the back of all their T-shirts or somewhere on the front, justice, opportunity, equity, freedom. And so I want to define for you what racial equity is. Racial equity is a process of eliminating racial disparities and improving outcomes for everyone. It is the intentional and continual practice of changing policies, practices, systems, and attitudes by prioritizing measurable change in the lives of people of color. Keep that thought in mind, what racial equity is and what the NFL, through their Inspired Change movement that started in 2019, and that branding and slogan is everywhere. This is what it's about. And then I want you to keep that thought and connect it like, well, damn, how in Minnesota did Tim Walz and the political people allow this Somali thing? Some people move over here from Somalia. And we've established these daycares and child cares where we have to do everything to funnel as much money and as much child care as we can to Somali people. Because, again, it's change. And it's helping people of color. This is the mentality that the NFL is promoting. The most powerful force in popular culture is backing up the mentality that it takes in order for a state like Minnesota and other states. Trust me, this is rampant all over America, that this mentality, and football has assisted, the NFL has assisted in stamping this mentality in as many Americans as possible through their messaging. This is why they do all this outreach to women. This is why they do all this outreach to gays. This is why they do all this outreach. It's not just, hey, can we acquire as many fans as possible? It's, can we get as many people in here so that we can brainwash as many people in America as possible to see any change as a positive? And particularly if the change can be color-coded, black or brown, it's a positive and it can't be questioned, because if you question it, you're being racist. And so their pursuit of racial equity, I want to read this again. Racial equity is a process of eliminating racial disparities and improving outcomes for everyone. It is the intentional and continual practice of changing policies, practices, systems, and attitudes by prioritizing measurable change in the lives of people of color. And so some of you are listening to me, particularly if you're in the racial idolatry cult. I was like, what do you mean, Jason? You don't want to change the lives of people of color? No, I don't. What I want to do is fill up America with as much biblical values, Christian values as possible. And then I want to lean into being a Christian. I want to lean into a biblical worldview. That's the world I want to live in. I don't want to live in a black or white world. I don't want to live in a brown or white world, a yellow or white world, a black or brown world. I want to live in a Christian world, a society and a culture that rewards Christian values. That's what's best for all of us. I don't want to sacrifice my eternal salvation in pursuit of a color-coded world that may benefit me briefly here on this earth, but will not serve me when I'm sitting at the throne. It won't help me get to the seat of the throne. It won't help me sit at the feet of my Father. And so for those of you that aren't Christian, and you just want to take a secular view of it, this color-coded world is why your children are more likely to be sexually confused, sexually exploited, more vulnerable than at any time in this planet. For those of you that are men that are secular, and you wonder why you have virtually no say-so, and you're answering to your wife, girlfriend, your female girl boss on your job, it's because we've leaned into a color-coded world that's feminist or color-coding the world, and your authority has been usurped, and now you serve at the pleasure of a woman whose hormones are constantly changing, her moods and attitudes are constantly changing. You'll hear this, Whitlock hates women. No, I don't. I understand them and accept them for who they are, who God made them. They're not leaders. They have menstrual cycles. They go through the change and have all kinds of hormonal issues. They're the weaker vessel. I didn't do that. God did that. And so this world where we answer to women and this feminist mindset, and then we have to be a slave to this racially idolatrous country. That's how you get Somalis coming over here, being used and participating in a scam where your tax dollars, hundreds of billions of your tax dollars, are being funneled here, there, and everywhere, none of it being used to benefit you. None of it. The government just steals from you. And that's why we live in a world right now where playing the game in an honest fashion with integrity, it doesn't work in this world at all. It's not how you get ahead in the world that they have conceived and constructed. So let me finish my point here that 2019, when the Players Coalition combines with the NFL and adopts the Inspire Change slogan that they are promoting everywhere. And they're promoting the mentality. Change. Change is the greatest thing. All these young people come, hey, I got to do things different than my parents. This world has to be different than the one my parents grew up in. We will strip it of everything good so that we can make it anew in our image, meets our quotas, meets our standards, that merit has no place in the world that they're constructing. And so the man that used to get ahead, like my father, like my mother, by outworking someone else, that's how I got ahead. I was not the greatest college student, but once I graduated, I outworked most of my peers in journalism, turned myself into a great journalist through my work ethic, through my dedication. That world is gone. And you can sit there and laugh and say, hey, good. We don't want a world that works for Whitlock. I don't like Whitlock. Those of you with kids, they're building a world, and they've built a world where your child would be better served choosing an alternative sexual lifestyle so they can meet the victim status. That's how your child will get ahead in the world that they have constructed. He's got to be willing to bend over. That's how you get ahead in this world. Change. That's again, when the world used to be slanted like you got Christian values, you're obedient to God, you're obedient to Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior. You adopt values, habits, a mentality, an approach to life consistent with biblical values. Oh, that's how you get ahead. That's the way it used to be. But now that we're under this change agenda, promoted from Obama to the NFL to everywhere, corruption is how you get ahead. Sexual exploitation is how you get ahead. And so, as the NFL funnels money, millions of dollars to the Players Coalition so that Malcolm Jenkins, Ben Watson, Anquan Bolden, Chris Long, Josh McCown, these guys can all pretend like they're Abe Lincoln and George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, some of the great intellectual minds ever, and they can do criminal justice reform. They can funnel millions of dollars so these guys can draw major salaries and run around the country like they're the most important thinkers on the planet. Under the change initiative, well, they're black. That's a black-led organization. That's a good thing. Anything that's not white is a good thing. Anything that usurps a biblical mindset, that's a good thing. America was founded on Christian values. Now the change agenda is we're going to refound this country under satanic values, where everything is color-coded. It's not the content of your character, it's the color of your skin, it's how wide your booty hole is. That's the world that they've created. While you've bought into the mentality, well, if it's not white, it's a good thing. And we got to color code the world. So as we color coding, you wonder and as this Somali thing in Minnesota gets uncovered and unpacked, and we start seeing how widespread and rampant it is across the country. The same way they founded the Players Coalition and funneled millions of dollars to a group of football idiots who think way too highly of themselves, that's how they're funneling money through Somali child care deals. Hey, come on over here to this country. We'll ship you in. All you got to be willing to do is be quiet. We'll set up some dummy business in your name. We'll funnel millions upon millions of taxpayer money through your business. We'll give you a small little cut of it, and then we'll use the rest of that money to finance any and everything we want and pay off any and everybody we want. Change. That's the change you can believe in. That's the change the NFL is promoting through their Inspire Change agenda. So when you're watching the games this week, this weekend, when you're watching the playoffs, and again, I'm going to be right there. I want you to know what you're looking at, because it's harder and harder for me to watch these games. And I've already told you, you couldn't pay me. You couldn't make me watch the Super Bowl at gunpoint, because that's this change that they're talking about. This is all going to come to a crescendo Super Bowl weekend when they bring out Bad Bunny and that satanic Spanish rapping garbage music. A man that can't stand America, we're giving the biggest platform in America during the Super Bowl. You couldn't pay me to watch that satanic mess. But I want you to know what you're looking at. Inspire change is inspire corruption. It's creating a mindset that justifies everything you're seeing in Minnesota. Everything that this Nick Shirley has uncovered. There's a mindset that has to be installed throughout America for politicians and other people. There was a clip of the white woman. They were at some child care place, and there was an older white woman holding up a phone and screaming into the people in the people inside the business, "Don't open the door, they're ICE. Don't open the door, they're ICE." And you're sitting there like, what is this white woman thinking? This is an American white woman standing outside a corrupt business where a bunch of Somalis in hijabs and whatever are inside bilking American taxpayers out of millions of dollars. And she's standing outside, "Don't open the door, it's ICE." She's protecting the people ripping her off. You want to know why? Because she's been convinced that all change is good change, and that change is the ultimate goal. And anything that destroys what was and establishes something new. And so she's sitting there. Maybe she's not fully aware, but I am, and some of you are. And I'm sorry for being this politically incorrect, but we've allowed a group of people from a country where the average IQ is 68, and we're shipping them into America and funneling hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, through dummy businesses, through a group of, I apologize, retards that we've brought in from Somalia. She thinks this is progress. This is insanity. This is absolute insanity that has been bought, paid for, and promoted by the National Football League. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.